I don't want to go to jail. The real reason Korean men have stopped pursuing women. Yeah, this is actually tragic because Korea's kind of gone backwards on if a woman feels like they're being approached too much. I think the same thing kind of happened in the US, where women would go to the gym and exercise and record themselves exercising just to make a stink about men walking past, and they'd literally do everything, every pose, everything on purpose. Everything on purpose. And then just to make a stink about it. And then it became an issue that now nobody even talks to them. And now you have women coming out just like, well, I get all dressed up. I go in, I'll do all this stuff, and nobody comes to talk to me. Well, of course not. For the past 10 years, men have been getting harassed for no apparent reason. So they're not going to try and get involved in a situation to where they're going to get harassed. But yeah, I don't want to go to jail.
Why are men today becoming less and less willing to take the initiative to pursue women? If you ask this question in China, you'll get several different answers. But in the center of the universe, South Korea, men will give you just one sentence: I don't want to go to jail. The Korean National Police Agency announced a public safety regulation stating that a man cannot show romantic interest in a woman more than 3 times, and the definition of showing interest is extremely broad. Even inviting someone to eat or meet up already counts. If he tries more than 3 times, it can legally be considered harassment. That is why South Korea's gender conflict is considered one of the most extreme in the world. And some even more radical feminist organizations have shouted the slogan, "Eliminate all Korean men." And they started acting accordingly. When these women discovered they were pregnant with a boy, they chose not to carry the pregnancy to term, using this non-confrontational method to fight against Korean men. If Japanese men win this war simply by adopting a Zen-like attitude and giving up on the fight, then how are Korean men dealing with this battle? Hold the like button for 3 seconds. Today we're going to talk about how feminism in South Korea spun out of control.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, 3 times only. The thing is the sad part. Again, everything I say, it's always generalized. It's always generalized because not everyone is the same way. Because I'm an introvert. I'm not a social butterfly. I don't like going out, but my brothers are. So they have more of the compunction for certain things. But generally, women want to be pursued. They want to have... Everything is a game to show for a man to prove their worth to them. But I don't have that kind of compunction. I really don't. I really don't. If I don't feel the urge for anything, I'm just like, nah. I'll be honest. Like, my wife was the only one to ever drag me out. The only one. And she's rightfully so the only one I should ever be dragged out for. Does that sound right? I think so. I think that sounds right. No, just like in general, to go out and do something. It's just like, it's all for my wife. Everything's for my wife. Like, that's the thing. But I also need to prove to her that I care about her. But she also will do things, say things in order for me to kind of get the hint and be like, oh, okay, this is what. But the thing is, it's a game. A lot of women see it as how far can I string him along to see how much he's willing. Again, it's general. It's general, at least in the West, for sure. This is the case where they go like, walk away, and then they just want to constantly be pursued. But it's mostly the extroverted girls that tend to enjoy that. But yeah, it's just like, again, this isn't like, when I need to do like a sit down doing like relationship advice and have my wife here with me. So I'll say one thing and she's like, are you an idiot? Don't do that. Because it's always general, because there's some people that they're always different people. They're always different people. But yeah, I mean, if guys are just going to stop pursuing, it's going to be the woman's responsibility to start picking up the slack. It is.
And became so extreme. In fact, in the beginning, the development of feminism in Japan and Korea followed the same pattern. Between 1960 and 1990, South Korea's economy soared, and that growth brought urbanization, fashion, progressiveness, and free love. This new mindset completely captivated the younger generation.
Hippies!
And at first, Korean women had a simple desire: to be independent women of a new era, cutting ties with old traditions. It was a good idea. A lot of people supported it.
Do you think Korea can recover from this? No. Honestly not, especially with AI becoming more of a thing. And if you watch, like, I enjoy K-dramas with my wife and everything, so I get to watch the stuff, and it's like, women are taught a lie through, like, the K-dramas. Guys experience the reality. They're not going to get involved, And with AI becoming a thing and people getting so freaking deluded, they're going to start forming more relationships with AI. Because guess what? AI is even for guys, AI will understand you better, won't talk back to you unless you kind of, I guess, instruct it to. It will always be caring for you. You won't have to actually go out of your way and do anything for it. So AI is going to end up taking over. So especially now, a lot of places that are dealing with this kind of sexual tension, and it's, of course, it's not all women are the same, not all guys are the same, but it will become problematic. It will become problematic over time.
Both men and women. There is nothing wrong with wanting to liberate your mind. But then came the problem. When the economy crashes and the conflict between men and women worsens, what happens? South Korea went through the exact same thing Japan did. The 1997 Asian financial crisis left 1.3 million Koreans unemployed, and everyone was forced into extreme hyper-competition. As we saw before, women simply cannot outperform men in an environment of brutal, relentless competition. So in 1999, in an attempt to increase their competitiveness in the job market, Korean feminists filed a lawsuit against military veterans, demanding the removal of the 5% hiring bonus given to men who completed mandatory service. They claimed it violated.
Then you do mandatory service. I mean, okay, so in college, I had a Korean roommate, and he literally did his mandatory service, and his mandatory service was playing League of Legends all day, because apparently the Americas has patrols along the wall and everything, but which I didn't know about. But he's just like, yeah, it's just like I didn't have to do anything. I just sat there on my computer playing games all day. So yeah, I guess they could complain if you're literally getting paid to do nothing. But again, they still are there. They still had to go through the boot camp. They're still there, expected to actually serve. Everyone should be treated the same. Everyone should be treated the same. Like, women should have to serve as well, and then they can get the discount as well.
The Constitution and discriminated against women. But everyone in Korea knows that almost every healthy man serves for 2 years. That bonus is well deserved. At this point, people began to realize the Korean feminist movement was starting to go off course. But up to this point, the conflict was still limited to the job market, nothing catastrophic, except that the seemingly impossible demand, removing the military bonus, was approved in the year 2000. Then, in 2001, when China entered the WTO and its economy began skyrocketing, Korea's key industries came under pressure, further worsening the Korean job market. And with the 2008 financial crisis, unemployment became devastating. Internal competition became unbearable. Just like in Japan, Korean women lost badly in the professional field. But unlike Japanese women, Korean women are far more aggressive when it comes to verbal combat. So, in 2009, an all-out confrontation between both sides exploded. At the time, there was a TV show called The Chat of Beauties. This show ignited the fury of Korean men. One of the guests said, "Any man under 1.8 m, 5 feet 11 inches, is a loser." That sentence hit with the force of a Sari.
If India does a mandatory military service, we will suppress America's military. Yeah, yeah, completely. It'll blow every other nation combined, basically. Combined, well, unless China does mandatory military service. But there aren't that many new generation that are of military age. But yeah, India absolutely would.
Sarajevo assassination, a spark that triggered a firestorm. Male groups then decided to launch a complete retaliation against feminist groups. Starting in 2009, both sides began public protests, tearing apart any remaining facade of civility. That's when Korea's gender conflict became openly visible. But up until then, everything was still happening offline, with limited reach. What truly poured gasoline on the fire was the internet. From that point on, the gender war changed battlefield. From offline to online, extreme feminist groups like Meg Alir began to emerge. Their logo is that hand gesture, you know which one. Better not comment too much, to avoid losing the Korean market. In the beginning, it was still something relatively normal, fighting against harassment and workplace discrimination. But as the conflict escalated, Meg Alir became increasingly radical. They began promoting the selective abortion of male babies. And some actually did it. After all, their slogan had already been declared: eliminate all Korean men. To what extent did this go?
Well, eventually, because that's the thing, the only future for humanity is letting every single demographic die out. By every single demographic intermixing. That's the only future. Like it's funny because I remember watching a South Park episode about when the future is overpopulated and they have to go to the past for aid, and the people all look alike. They're all like orange skinned type and almost hairless. It's just like the entire world all intermingled. It was all a one world, and yeah, they all look the same. And I was like, well, that does make sense. If eventually there's no difference, people will just start having religious disagreements at that point. Well, and I guess gender disagreements at that point. But yeah, I mean, that's just how it's going to go. But you'll never stamp out hatred. You'll never stamp out hatred. And especially with what's going on here, it's like been seeded in the hatred towards men, how they would probably see their like daughters, how they would see their mothers treated from how they would see their brothers treated. Like a lot of that goes into it, where you see the preferential treatment, especially like in Asian culture, where the son is given every opportunity, allowed to make every mistake, but the daughter immediately is put to work to help clean, to help cook, to just do everything, take care of the chores, to help mom around the house. That's like almost immediately what happens. I mean, not always, but that seems to be the case, especially in like Asian households, at least traditional. When in a Western household, that's you're lucky if you have both parents, which I am lucky, but you're lucky if they're both present.
Oh, they rode trains holding knives pointed at men. They took threatening photos of fathers and male relatives and posted them online. Even national heroes became targets simply because they were men. Their pictures were edited into offensive memes. When it comes to conflict between men and women, Korea takes the trophy. This level of extremism surpasses even many Western countries. And that tiny bit of gender conflict happening in China, Korea doesn't even consider that conflict. But the main point is, who created Korea's current situation? The ones responsible are the chaebols, Korea's family-owned conglomerates. The pressure Korean youth face, both men and women, comes from the economic structure. The real enemy of young people isn't the opposite sex. It's the system of powerful business groups. But radical feminism ended up completely shifting away from that target. They redirected their hatred toward ordinary men.
You guys can call me racist, but all Korean idols look exact same. Well, that's due to plastic surgery. I think Korea has like especially per capita, the most plastic surgery done, especially per capita. So they all tend to want to have the ideal look, but the ideal look also depends from territory to territory, from district to district, from state to state, from nation to nation. The what people deem attractive is completely different. Completely different.
Who are just as normal as they are. And what was the result? Feminists had to confront the counteroffensive of Korean masculinist groups. How did Korean men defeat radical feminism? The answer: they used magic against magic. The feminists said, "You men discriminate against women in the job market. You don't open space. You don't let women enter companies." But when they saw a company with fewer women than men, they said, "Look at this, men are such losers." So masculinists decided to lay it all out. If we're going to be insulted anyway, we might as well ensure men get more benefits. You say I discriminate against women? Then now I'll really discriminate. The feminists said, Korean men are disgusting, always sending messages to women. That's harassment. And that's where the 3 attempts rule was born. The men responded, all right, then I won't message anymore. Feminists: Korean men aren't considerate at all in relationships. Men: okay, then let's break up. There are many examples like this. The masculinists began to adopt the logic of radical feminism completely, turning everything back on them. Feminists said, on TV shows you can't make jokes about women, that's discrimination. Men replied, all right, then you can't make jokes about men either. Otherwise, that's discrimination against men. At first, feminists saw men complying with everything and thought they had completely won. But over time, they noticed something felt wrong. For example, in variety shows, what was fun precisely because of the playful banter suddenly became stiff, dull, and uninteresting. Women...
Because there's no game anymore. There's no game. And that's... The thing is, men don't need that game. They don't. We really don't. It's an annoyance to most of us that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go ask her out. I need to prove. None of us like that. None of us like that. So in Korea, it's just like, oh, you're not allowed to actually seek them. Send out 1 message, 2 messages, 3 messages. They don't respond. Move on. Move on. You don't need to put in more effort than that. You could send 3 messages back to back and be like, all right, Move on to the next one. 3 messages. All right. You could get through the entire dating pool in South Korea in probably a month. Just sending 3 messages back to back to every single person in the dating market. If you don't get any responses, you could go somewhere else. You know you have no chances there. It's freaking ridiculous. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's the thing. It's just like we don't like the game. If we like someone, we're honest about it. The problem is like women want the proof, the it to be shown, all that kind of stuff, which is like, no, us saying it should be enough. Us saying it should be enough, because we don't need like a translator for us to tell the woman how we feel. They normally can tell even before we do. But we need a translator for the woman, because we can't understand the nuances of no. There are like 40 different forms of no that all mean something different. I don't know how to differentiate them. Even from my wife, who I love, I can't tell the difference. A no is a no, but it doesn't always mean no. Sometimes it means try again. Sometimes it means tomorrow. Sometimes you never know. You never know. And words are weird like that. Yeah, the game's gone. Yeah, there's no game. There's no game.
Began to feel bored, but the men had already stopped watching. And in the job market, men openly admitted, yes, we are discriminating. We'll compete to the maximum. And women's difficulty in finding jobs increased again. The 3 attempts rule also became one of the major causes of Korea's population decline. In the radical feminist narrative, excellent women complained they received too many messages.
And the hints, my goodness, take some years to realize. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I don't understand them. I don't. Like, I'll ask my wife over and over, because I can feel now something's wrong. So I'll ask her until she finally tells me, like, oh, what I did wrong that morning. And it's just like, okay. I'll have to remember for next time. But that's the thing. It's like, I can tell she's upset now, but I don't know why. Now for me, it's having to figure out and understand why. But yeah, the hints, like there would be things like, I'm pretty sure I missed a ton of hints back in the day, a ton of hints, because I just didn't care. And I didn't want to deal with deciphering that when I could actually watch a movie, play a game, do something enjoyable than deciphering the Morse code that a woman portrays. Bill Burr said that that's not the way she said no. She said no in a playful way, but lawyers say, Your Honor, she said no. Stop. You're so bad. Yeah, it's about how you say it. No, you're so bad. No, you're so bad. Like, yeah, there are different ways of saying it. But we're guys. That's why you primarily see like men as lawyers. It's more logistical. Of course, in the U.S., it's more like who tells the best story wins, not so much the case. But yeah, I mean, words have meaning, and we try to follow, not completely, but we try to follow words. But when it comes to women, words have emotion. Words have emotion. That's the best way to say it. For men, words have meaning. For women, words have emotion.
Lower income women just wished men were a bit more attentive. And this rule made Korean men stop investing any effort in pursuing someone. Today, many already approach directly asking, "Want to make a baby together?" If the woman says no, they move on to the next. If you ask why, they answer, "I'm respecting women." And since Korean men only want young and beautiful women, everyone's goals became the same. This strategy of using feminism against itself ended up creating internal splits among women. Many women realize this.
Because they'll fight amongst themselves. They'll fight amongst themselves. Like, that's the thing. Like, the reason why that whole body positivity movement happened in the U.S. was because these midwives were tired of driving the kids to school and then seeing a giant billboard of like a lingerie model. They don't want to compete with that because their husbands drive right past that as well. So they wanted the fat model up there instead. It's all about eating each other in the end. That's why they try to promote the overweight ones, so that way they can feel better about themselves. Seriously, that is what it is. They're just afraid to admit it.
And began opposing the rule. They said, 3 times is too little. You can't feel any romance. You can't see if the guy actually cares.
More complex than
But the
rocket science for
masculinists
sure.
countered, you're being selfish, only thinking about yourselves. Have you considered the suffering of women who get harassed? And then a curious situation occurred. Grassroots feminists wanted to revoke the rule they themselves had proposed. Elite radical feminists wanted to keep it. And the masculinists said, we support not harassing women. We respect women. Additionally, feminists said, marriage is oppression for women. Men. Okay, then I won't marry. Childbirth oppresses women. Men. All right, then I'll date without marrying and have no children. Marriage oppresses women. And men. Perfect. I completely support that.
So you end up giving men everything they want. A generation of nothing but one-night stands. That's the thing. Is like deep down, most men want to be like what I believe a man is a father figure, is someone who stands up for their family, is someone's the first line to take a hit for the family. That's the financial earner. I mean, not so much because I married a genius, and no matter what, she's gonna make more money than me. I already know that, but oh well. I'm looking forward to that money. But yeah, I mean, I know what my role is, but a lot of people, again, like the social media narratives, like you were saying, it's just like a lot of people are taught this lie. Like a lot of guys are taught this lie that, oh, you need to hustle women, you need to game women. The more body count the higher body count you have, the cooler you are, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It makes no freaking sense. But the same thing goes for women, where they end up going down this delusional pipeline on social media that sells them a lie about inequality and all this kind of stuff. Has there been inequality? Absolutely. Has there been equality? Absolutely. Has there been inequality in the other direction? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the thing is just like everyone had a role back in the day, and everyone's life was hard. Like back in the day, the reason why wives were the child bearers, the child nurturers, because the husband was going off to work, destroying their bodies in factories, destroying their bodies, carrying giant lumber, carrying building blocks, that kind of stuff. But now it's the world has gotten smaller. Technology has taken over a lot of the heavy labor things, that now more people get involved in that kind of stuff. But at the same thing, it's just like, it's crazy. It's crazy. My mom's generation, women were better and traditional. Yeah. That's always the case. Like like the thing is, I had no clue sexism was a thing. Because that's the thing. I grew up in my little pocket of the world where I was in a diverse community. My father's from Mexico. A bunch of my brother's friends were of different ethnicities. It didn't mean anything. I grew up always seeing every color of the rainbow underneath you, like other gays and things like that. It was never an issue. And then for some reason, I go off to college, still not an issue, but and then for some reason it just comes out of nowhere, where everyone starts, well, it was actually in 2008, where it suddenly started becoming an issue. It started becoming an issue, and everyone knows what happened in the US in 2008. Well, not everybody, but there was an election. There was an election.
They fought radical feminism with radical feminist logic. In the end, feminists realized that, in the job market, they couldn't outperform men. In other issues, they also couldn't beat the male strategy, and Korean men simply copied Japanese men. No marriage, no dating, no children. Everyone lives their own life. The punches thrown by feminists started hitting the air. In the end, all rights must pass the test of productivity. When the feminist movement cannot secure rights through rhetoric alone, it means the game of radical feminism in Korea is reaching its end. Of course, the war between masculinists and feminists also involves Korean politics, so it's better not to go too deep into that.
The truth is that, after so many years of ideological war, verbal attacks, absurd regulations, and radical movements, South Korea ended up showing us a very simple and, at the same time, very uncomfortable picture of what happens when the pursuit of equality stops being about equality.
Body count used to mean kill count a few years back. Yeah, for the members and veterans who served. Now it apparently means just how many women you've slept with. which is weird, Yeah, exactly. People have forgotten the miseries of the past as if they never happened. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And not only that, they're trying to change the miseries of the past to be something they never were. Like the new Wuthering Heights film, where it turned this tragic story of not being able to achieve anything that she wanted in her life, constantly being passed over, and she had no real voice, into a smut fest, into a soft core corn film. Of course, they took a classic piece of literature about the hardships of women and turned it into something else. It's like, come on.
Quality and turns into a fight for advantage. It's almost poetic if it weren't so tragic. Because deep down, when Korean men decided to use magic against magic, they weren't trying to destroy radical feminism. They were just tired. Tired of being treated as villains for simply existing, tired of trying to please people who had already condemned them in advance, tired of living under rules that turn even the smallest gesture into a potential crime. Their response was simply to stop. Stop romanticizing, stop chasing, stop getting involved. And when one side of the equation steps out, the entire structure collapses on its own. And the most curious or ironic part is that this dynamic is far from being exclusive to Korea. If you look closely, the West is following an eerily similar script. There, the narrative also started with a legitimate demand for right.
Maurice, stop it. You do not need to see Wuthering Heights. Just that's like Honey Don't. You were like, oh, I'm not going to see it. And then you find out there's one thing. You didn't watch the movie. You just went to those weird scenes. Of course. Watch the movie and then tell me what you think.
It's respect and opportunities. And little by little, it shifted into a culture of hostility, moral competition, and a cold war between genders. There too, we see women accusing men of structural oppression while simultaneously demanding exclusive privileges, and we see men responding with a silent, increasingly widespread retreat. Emotional, economic, and even familial. The phenomenon is global. Men are leaving the game. And what's striking is that both in Asia and in the West, the logic driving this chaos is exactly the same. Equality became currency. A flag each side raises when convenient and throws away when it isn't. Neither men nor women want to fall behind. What they really want is to win. And that's why every new rule, every new slogan, every new fight for rights feels less like a path toward balance and more like a strategy for unilateral advantage. When one side realizes it can use the narrative to move 2 steps forward, it does. When the other realizes it can protect itself by withdrawing entirely, it withdraws. And in this endless tug of war, no one gets anywhere. The result? A war where no one wins. A society where everyone loses. And, in the end, an entire generation that looks at love, marriage, and even basic coexistence with a kind of distrust that has never existed before. If in Japan the motto became, I don't want to fight, in Korea it became, I don't want to go to jail, and in the West it's turning into, it's not worth it. 3 different languages for the...
Yeah, it's not worth it. Or the thing is, like I have a friend who went to Mexico to find a more traditional... You go to another place where actually understands the values. Because in the West, you just can't. Any kind of modernized location, there are no there's no understanding for roles, for one's roles. India courts always support women, saying that women are always right. I mean, it's the same thing in the U.S. Women have their own set of laws which protect them in certain situations, kids as well. But men are kind of on the outside, but they have all the other laws as well. Because that's the thing. It's just like there's always a bias towards protecting women, because especially as men, it's our instinct to protect. Again, don't take offense, but someone weaker. It is. There's a reason why it's women and children first, because, well, women and children are far weaker than the man who can actually do something. Why do you think Leo was in the water freezing to death as the woman was on the door? Because the man needed to go first. That's why.
Same universal feeling, exhaustion. The saddest or most ironic part is that the solution was never complicated. It was always simple: respect, dialogue, shared responsibility. But that, of course, doesn't generate cliques, political flags, or...
My relative got divorced and the child was given to his ex-wife simply because she was a woman. My relative is financially stable and has a job, house, and does not drink or smoke. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like it always isn't justified. It truly isn't. It really just depends on the court. I have a relative who's basically been screwed over the same way. been screwed over the same way, but in the opposite direction. It was not given sole, but it was kind of a joint custody thing. But the man shouldn't have had any custody with what he had done. It's just like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's just insane. It's just insane.
Trending topics. Conflict does, war does. The us versus them narrative even more. And maybe that's the real lesson of this whole story. When equality becomes a weapon, it stops being equality and becomes just another form of power. In the end, whether we're looking at Seoul, Tokyo, New York, or Sao Paulo, the dynamic is always the same. One side accuses, the other retaliates, one side radicalizes, the other withdraws. And the conversation, which should unite, becomes a trench. And while we fight for rights, we forget that none of them matter if no one wants to share life with anyone anymore. Share your thoughts about this dilemma in the comments.
What? That was not racist music. I was enjoying that beat. In USA, you can sue a woman for false accusations and actually win. Not in India, my friend. I think it really depends. But yeah, I mean, that does seem to happen. That seems to happen. But the sad thing is like there's something that happens, especially in like law enforcement, where enough false claims have happened. Like there have been a lot of SA allegations accused towards men where they have abused a woman or taken advantage of like some random person just because the woman didn't like them. And it turns out that it was fake. What happened was so many of those turned out to be fake that police have stopped even in truly caring about the real ones either. Because every time they hear it, their minds just go straight back to, oh, a lot of this stuff is fake. It's not important. It's all fake. And that's a big issue. That is absolutely a big issue. That's the big problem. Because men and women have different roles in life. Do I believe men should be constantly pushy? No. Do I believe women should be able to imprison a man for being pushy? No. Should there be like locations where it's like okay? Absolutely. If a woman goes to a bar, they should expect to get hit on. Like if I go to a gay bar, I should expect to get hit on because of course I'm a very attractive white man. I know I am. I'm not narcissistic. I'm perfect. I'm amazing. But yeah, it's the same thing. But a lot of people just don't want to accept that. And they always want to be the winner. They always want to choose for themselves. And in the end, I mean, I've always told my wife, she has the right to choose everything. I'm a man. I have no right. Even though I would like things to happen, I will always defer to her. I'd always defer to her and her wisdom because she's smarter than me. She's absolutely smarter than me. That's just a given.
You guys made a video? Why is it so bad?
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait on that.